Playbook by CEO East Africa Magazine in association with FCCA Uganda and Deloitte.
Welcome to yet again another edition of the CFO Playbook by CEO East Africa Magazine, a show where we get into the minds of CFOs. I know CFOs are difficult people to try to get into their minds to know what they are thinking. They're always trying to put a shield around themselves, because once you break that shield, then you get to know the finances of organizations. But on a more serious note, we get to understand all about their journeys to financial leadership, and in the hope that in there we can be able to get some lessons and insights to inspire upcoming business and finance leaders. And I also love to think of this show as the show, the finance show for non-finance people. You know, I'm sure a lot of people out there do not quite appreciate or understand what you guys do. In some organizations, because CFOs have to make all these hard decisions, sometimes you are misunderstood as the guys who are always saying no. But I'm glad I've also had a lot of CEOs having conversations around we need to learn to say more yeses than nos, as long as the yeses have reasons that are good for the organizations. So with me here today is a lady that I'm sure is known to most of us, because we've seen her win quite some awards in the finance space. Mukasa. She's a group CFO of the Greenhill Holdings. And outside the show, we are talking about Greenhill Holdings. And they do quite a lot of things, but one of the most prominent is the Greenhill Schools. So if you've been to Greenhill, or you passed by there, or you're a parent and you have a child who is of school-going age, I'm sure you know about the Greenhill brand. So, Masa, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Great. And maybe before we start anything else, I think it would be important for people to know you a little bit more about you, the person, and some bit of your experience in the finance profession. It would also be good to share a bit about the awards that you won.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right.
I'm glad that I'm with you today. My name, as introduced, I'm Martha Mukasa. I have a range of experience of over 20 years in the finance space, and I have been at the helm of finance for more than 15 years. I was with USO, and then I went to the Justice Centers. This is just at the High Court. It's a legal aid project. Then I joined Mengo Hospital. I was there for the last 10 years, and currently I'm with Greenhill Holdings. I'm the Group Chief Finance Officer, taking care of the group. So as you have asked about my journey up to there, so I'm a financial professional who has won some awards, and these awards are basically the ACCA Chief Finance Officer Awards. I won the not-for-profit category some years back, and that is basically focusing on sustainability for the not-for-profit enterprises, and that focused on what I had done in Mengo Hospital to transform the institution. Mengo Hospital is a private not-for-profit entity, and basically it had to be sustainable because it was not for loss either. So balancing and setting up systems and working with the teams and streamlining and ensuring that we allocate the resources was able to help me win that award. Then the next, where I am now at Greenhill Holdings, I'm the Group Chief Finance Officer, and here I'm basically now in the private for-profit. It's a move after several years in the private not-for-profit. Now I'm in the private for-profit. And here I'm just the head of finance, leading strategy. We are in the organization, I'm joining it at the time when they want to evolve. After 30 years, they want to expand, they want to diversify. So they were looking for someone who is strategic, who will be able to guide them on how they can expand their business portfolio. And I come well recommended and highly regarded because I have been able to transform the hospital. The hospital was able to grow its finances 3 times its resources. So currently at the Greenhill Holdings, we are now developing strategy, we are diversifying, entering into the new business. We are about to start the international curriculum because our clientele would like to have options. Currently, the clients want options. So we have been able to write the financial plans, and we are about to start. Very soon, we'll be putting out that new product for our clients.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So how have you found the transition from not-for-profit? There's a joke in the circles that in the not-for-profit sectors, they just give you money until you finish it, and yet in the private, in the private for-profit, they're basically asking you to bring in the money, and then they are limiting you on how not to spend it. So, but of course that's on the lighter side. How have you found the transition? Any remarkable differences in the two worlds?
Okay, for finance, it's not too different. Obviously, in the not-for-profit, they're talking about sustainability, whereby, yes, your question still aligns. When you go in the direct entities that actually rely on grants 100%, for them, they are at that pressure of spending, burn rate. In fact, it's one thing that you are rated, burn rate, you didn't spend. So there is that aspect whereby the NGOs are looking forward to do the activities and spend the money. But when we're in the hospital, which was a private not-for-profit, we were charging fees. And these fees were supposed to run the business. So there's a lot of business analytics, allocation, and making sure that wherever you are allocating funds, you're able to have them back and to make sure that the money can replicate itself. We will have the machines once again, etc. So the only difference is that they are not sharing out to the shareholders because it's a trust. Now, when you come to the private sector, now the shareholders' return is key. In fact, one of our strategy is to make sure that we grow the shareholders' value and return. So profitability is key. And with that shift, that in the NGO sector, we are looking so much in issues of, even here we have impact, but we are looking so much about sustainability, nothing much. Even when we are sustainable and we have very little left. In the private sector, it is key how much will the shareholders get their dividends. Are you still on course? Is our brand still the brand of choice? So they have a lot of things that they are looking at, and after 30 years they say, yes, in the first years we didn't earn anything. Now, after all these years and the brand has grown, we want to see our investments grow without putting in much. So the difference with the private enterprises, they want to stay there, they want their brand to stay as a leading brand, and they want to get a margin. They want to get a dividend at the end of the day. So when we're in those meetings, the issue is, yes, thank you for that very good investment, but is there a return? And in that aspect, I'll give you an example that, yes, there are also investments that we do, that one we are going to do, is just to sustain the business. Because sometimes when you are growing, when the numbers are growing, you also look at capacity issues, you look at a number of things, and some of the projects now that we are looking at the current space where I am, is to see that we are able to invest to sustain the business. Because that is also important. If you don't invest, when an organization has grown and it's at the success phase, where I think Greenhill Holdings it's at the success phase. If you don't do anything, if you don't invest once again, then the success phase will start to drop. You see the sales dropping because maybe you have overgrown your capacities, etc. So we are at the success phase, and at the success phase now we are investing to grow once again. But at the back of our mind, we have to have a return for our shareholders.
I think you raised something important around the importance of strategy, and I think no wonder you won an award around that, because you need to keep your eye on the past, the present, and the future. And how important is it? Because you get a feeling that sometimes some business leaders either have that they're so much into the present, or sometimes they are taken up by the past that they forget where they need to go. How important is it to delicately balance those three things?
Yeah, as a strategic leader, you have to look at the future. Maybe to take you a little bit back, you find that finance officers have been so much looking at you know how we present our financials. They are for the past, and they are just telling you, yes, the company is okay, it has been run well, but it's talking about the past. You find that our reports, in many cases, they don't give us what does it mean? Yeah. What is the next level? So as a finance leader, as a chief finance officer, you have to be looking at what is next. What is next? What will happen? When COVID came through, you find that all the institutions that were just comfortable where they are, they were blown off their feet. So you find that it's very important that as you are leading and as you are taking on this role, to be interested in the business dynamics, to be interested in the market, to be interested in the industry you are in. So when you are in that industry, you want to see what is the trend. I'll give an example of the schools where I am now. Is that the trend, the parents now are opting for the international curriculum. Yes, we have been there for 30 years. We have grown tremendously. The school started with 30 pupils. Now we are over 500 pupils. Yes, we are comfortable. We are making a return where we are. But when you look at the trend, so a CFO needs to have that as bits of data analytics. When you look at the trend, you find that we are also losing some numbers. And when you do the analysis and you find out stakeholder engagement, you find out they're saying, now we think the local curriculum is not giving us what we want. We want a certain kind of person to come out of this system. So they are opting for the international curriculum. And when they opt for the international curriculum and you listen to them, because the international curriculum is focusing on critical thinking. I know that the new curriculum has also, the O-level curriculum is trying to take the children to critical thinking, but where we have been, we have had a lot of rote learning, whereby the answer is A. You cannot add. So you find that when you see that the some of your customers that are we have premium customers, if you see them choosing the more expensive product, the international curriculum, so you have to think and see, how do we strategize ourselves? What is required? So as a CFO, you have to be strategic. You have to think ahead. When you sit at that table, don't just keep quiet. Because you can keep quiet and you listen and you tick the boxes and you go and you bring another report. You should be able to advise, because all the decisions that are being made, they have an impact. You may find that some of the people on the table, they are used to the past. And they say, but they are not risk takers, and they are very comfortable where they are. But maybe to take you fast forward is that if you read a book which says why the mighty fail, you will really see that if you are comfortable where you are, you may end up failing too.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've used some interesting words, and from an education perspective. And also now speaking as a parent, and I think I've been looking for someone to ask this question. Now that I've found you, I must ask you. There's a word they used, it's called customer, then stakeholder engagement. I feel, and recently I was at one of my son's school groups, and they were telling us about VD and telling us how we should come dressed. And I was angry that I actually asked this question and said that, since when did you teach us, extend your management from managing kids, now managing parents? And I get a feeling that that in some of these schools, especially the teachers, don't look at us as clients. They still treat us as an extension of our children, to the extent that if you resist in a way, they will take that punishment from you to your child. And this is something that we used to see in a lot of government schools, because there are very few government schools, and parents would be literally begging. But now with with of course the private sector schools and all that, there's more choice, but you don't see there's some bit of lack of flexibility. I don't know. Do all these other schools? And I mean, I am not a client of Greenhill, so I wouldn't take this on you, but where does this come from? Why do schools still look at us, as we the parents, why do you treat us almost like our children? And you want to handle us and deal with us in the same way, to the point of being so unflexible.
Okay, you have two answers. Yes, sometimes you have to be strict on the parents, and sometimes no. So we have clients, and you have to understand the space you are in. If you look at the categorization of your clients, there are those clients that are, which we call the corporate, the high-end, the political clients, etc. You have all sorts of clients, and then the ordinary clients. Now, the different schools, what I have noted with the different schools, if you go to the traditional schools, they are still very strict. There's a parent who gave us an example that the child was taken to one of the schools, I will not name, to do an interview for P1 or P2 because they wanted the child to go to boarding school. And the child passed the interview. The child was assertive, was straight, was very good when other children were crying around. But after the interview, the sister asked that, where has this child been? He said, he has been at Greenhill. And then he said, why do you want to bring this child here? He said, because I want a boarding school and I believe the child. He said, no, here we are very strict. We still follow the rules of if you have been in our old school, the child is not supposed to talk up to her. So you know those rules that we have grown in if you have grown in that age. He said, but if you want your child to be assertive, to be the one who will stand out, please go to the other school. So you find that now that school was able to communicate to this client. So the client had choice to keep their child there because they have come for boarding or take the child back to Greenhill. But what is it that, back to your question, is that there are parents that you have to manage. We are I will not say we are treating you like the students, but we are managing you. Because even the students now, we have to manage them. Because they are different students. There are students who are coming in the high-end families, moderate, but all of them are students. And at school, that's why they put on the uniform. You want them to be at the same level, despite of where they are coming on. You have students. If you find that there are schools where we are giving restrictions, please don't come in shorts on a VD. So that one, you may say we are extending it to you as a parent, but we are managing it because now some shorts will come with holes, and you don't want your brand to be like that. So you want to put some restrictions on the parents, and then the parents know, and they will appreciate and respect. But also, on the other hand, you have to listen to the parents because they are our customers. Currently, if any business is to survive, you have to understand your client. Banks do it very much, the KYC. You have to understand your client. Now, when you understand your client, you have to know that my client is not a client that I'll keep giving. I'm in a private school. I keep giving bills. I start at a low fee, and then I keep sending bills to you. No. My client, for example, my client knows that at the start of the year, I declare these will be my fees. And they should cover everything. So I shouldn't be changing fees along the course of that. Even when we have a challenge, we cannot change fees. And you also have to know that my clients don't want to be bogged down with these rules. They said, I have given you the student. Please take care of the students. And my clients are digital clients. Some of them want to be given some information up front. When you are inviting them, they have already found out what is it about, what are they learning, etc. So those are the clients. So you have to understand your client. So if your clients that's why sometimes we charge the premium rate. If your client is an ordinary client, if you're taking, for example, your client is the ordinary Ugandans, I don't know where I can rate them, but I think you understand, then you know if he's a Chikubo trader, he will tell you, I have a school where the parents say, I brought my child to learn English. Don't bother me. When you know how schools call, you know progress of the student, come we sit in, your child is not doing this. The parent said, please, I brought my child for this and this. Me, I didn't study like that, but this is what I want. So you have to understand your client, and then you know how to treat them because you need the money, but also you have a product that you want to bring out.
Okay. I hear you, I remember of a certain joke where I think a teacher wrote a sheet to the parent of Peter and said, dear parents of Peter does not bathe his males. And then the parents wrote back and said, dear teacher, Peter is not a flower, don't smell him, teach him. So that's kind of conversation. So maybe as we before we get back to the mainstream conversations, I also wanted to pick from you, since you are in the finance end, you're able to see some of these numbers. Would you say, and I know the education sector was one of those which were badly hit by COVID, would you say we have, looking at the numbers and also hearing from your peers and everybody else, maybe because Greenhill is right on the upper side of the market, so you may not accurately be able to tell, but I know at the end of the day, we all got affected in one or another. Would you say this sector has, especially the private sector in education, has recovered completely from COVID?
What I can say, the sector has not recovered. We have a number of schools that have closed, and some schools have survived. I'll just give an example. Greenhill has survived because we had good relations with our banks. We had loans, but we asked for some time, so we're able to cover all our costs and even keep our teachers. But there are a number of schools that had to let their teachers go. And so coming back, you may not get them. Many teachers have now gone to Dubai, others are border riders, others have gone to farming. So the sector has not recovered yet, but we are steadily recovering. And that will show you that even in our high-end schools, we are getting parents with challenges. Those that lost jobs can no longer pay fees for their students. So the sector is just recovering, and when you look, and then we have those that were not affected by COVID, and those ones now have choice. So in the educational sector, there is also the issue of choice, that now with that, because our local curriculum, we got a break, and the international curriculum stayed on course. They didn't lose a year. So you find that some of the clients that can afford, they say, why should I be in a curriculum that loses years? Our children are growing so fast. So you find that there are those different types of clients, and I have seen them, and that's where we are. Thank you.
All right, cool. Okay, it's when I was growing up and hearing you speak of the number of years of experience, I could imagine we're in the same age range, me and you. And when we're growing up, the things that our parents were telling us to be is either to be a doctor, be an engineer, or be a priest, or at least be a teacher. You rarely heard of things like be a finance person. I think they used to call them accountants, be an accountant or something. And I actually remember there's a time one of the lead accountants, Mr. Mungereza, came to our school to give us an inspirational talk. And we didn't actually take him seriously, and we walked away. How did you come to join this profession? Did you plan for it, or you just found yourself in the flow?
Thank you. Now, when I was growing up, my desired profession was engineering. So I really studied to be an engineer. But when I got to my O-level, I think it's either chemistry, because they told me you have to do those subjects. Chemistry became very challenging. So at that point, I dropped it, and I said, I'm going to be a mathematician. So I thought that I'll go to the university, study mathematics, etc. But when I went to the university, when I looked at the courses, there was no mathematics course, but we had the statistics, we had BCom. So almost majority of us said, we can go for BCom. So we went for BCom. So that's how the journey started. But when I went for BCom, I'm a very interesting character that I still studied 2 courses at that time, because I was on government and I was on private. Government had not given me what I want, and private could give me what I want. So I studied the BCom course on private, and I studied a marketing course which had been given to me by government. So I studied those 2 courses. But when I was getting my first job, because the marketing course was a diploma course, I had completed it. So I got the job with my diploma course, but I was still studying. So when I joined the entity that was USO, my boss told me, if you are going to stay in finance, you have to do the professional course. Now that's when I started saying, the professional course? Okay. Then he told me, he started telling me there is the CPA Kenya, there is ACCA. He told me the challenges, it's very hard. We go to Kenya and we do what? I think you may choose ACCA, because you can do, I think they are also here. So that's how I got encouraged to start on this journey of the professional course. And when I started, it was not that easy. I had to mix it. That's the time when I also got engaged and married. So I had to do the professional course with a job, with family issues, and also studying. And these papers, this is the time for us. We studied at that time when some papers were supposed to be done together. Not this time whereby they are doing one paper. So the course was hard, but I was comforted that it had the 10 years. 10 years to complete. That was interesting. So that is how I launched into this course. And when I went about and completed the FCCA, I was very glad and happy. Some of the things that encouraged me, my husband was one of them, who kept telling me, when are you completing the course? Because when you're on this journey of professional course, there's a time when you fail the papers and you give up and you take a break. So there's a time when I took a break of about a year, and he had to tell me, when are you completing the course? When I went to some interviews where I wanted to get a bigger job, move from where I am, I was just an accountant, I want to go maybe to lead the department. Then the question came through, have you completed the course? I said, this is serious. So there were so many pressures that pushed me to complete, because just having a degree in accounting is not enough. So that has been my journey, and that's how I have been framed in being a professional accountant. But even still, at my level as CFO, if you want to lead, I don't know whether in other countries it's like that, but in Uganda, if you want to be a CFO, you want to be a head, they will also ask another question. Do you have an MBA? When we finished FCCA, we thought we had finished all the masters and everything. So we said, we are not going back to school. So we had to, it took me some time. And along the way, I got to realize that actually I had to go back and do my masters. So I did my masters of Edinburgh. I did my masters and completed it. And what was very interesting, that what I was studying in a master's degree was just helping me to align what I'm doing because of the experience and how the skills you have already acquired. But now this time, you're trying to say, okay, as when I'm doing this, it actually means this. You are properly aligned, and the entities see the paper is there. So one thing that I can end with is that even when you agree to be an accountant, you cannot be a static accountant. There are a number of skills that you have to add on to stand out. Thank you.
So have you given up now books?
No, it's a continuous thing. Books, continuous learning. I have studied, I have worked with NGOs in working for children. I went to the legal sector. I went to the hospital. Now I'm in education. It is continuous learning. And as you are at the top, there are a number of, that's why there's those CPDs. There are a number of things that you need to know that are outside the technical skills or financial skills. Yeah.
Okay. And looking back, any particular challenges that you faced that stand out for you, especially those from which you've been able to learn important lessons? Because they say never waste a good crisis. Because most of the challenges, every time you face a challenge and you surmount it, you get to learn some lessons, and maybe sharing those lessons helps other people to avoid them. Are there some of the key things that stand out for you that you think if you were to go back, you would be able to avoid certain mistakes that you did?
Okay, the major challenges that I've seen have been, which we call work dynamics, office politics. They have been really a big challenge, whereby you work with people who have their interests, who have their politics, who know some people, and you will find that in the office environment, the way you deal with them, the fact that you need to appreciate what is core and what is non-core, what matters and what doesn't matter. So some of the big challenges is in my workspace, in my journey. I'll give an example, is that I had a challenge with the HR. The person was not my supervisor, I'm not their supervisor, but we are colleagues. But we had friction, work friction, and yet we have to work together. And one thing I loved in that situation, when it heated up, and all of us thought that they will sack one of us because the information went to the head of the institution, and all of us thought they will sack either the HR thought they will sack the finance. At that time I was an accountant. They will sack the accountant. But when we went to the office with the head of institution, that head of institution said, he listened to all of us, and then he said, but you know, guys, I need both of you. I cannot fire any. See how you work together. So that took me back. I said, okay, now we had to go back and agree that we have differences, but we have to work together. So that gave me a different perspective, and it helped me that along my journey have been able to know that, yes, we have different perspectives, but we can work together. And there has also been some challenges where you find that people are engaged in fraud in our sector, and you find that you are the person who is supposed to sign on a document, but you have gotten information to know that this information is not the right document. Now, there are principles that I don't compromise on my side. I'll stand out and I will not sign. But when I'm not going to sign, I will communicate by an email. I say, I recommend. I will not be out there to say, this thing is absolutely wrong. You know how you learn how to communicate, even when you are communicating what your superior is not interested in. You learn how to communicate and to appreciate that is your supervisor, and but you also have to put out to say, these are my values, and this is what I'm recommending, and it's up to them to make a decision to move ahead. So those have been some of the
things. You know, it's interesting speaking to you first and listen how you speak and your demeanor. One would take you for a soft-spoken person, but also hearing some of the decisions that you make and the conversations you're making, I get a feeling that you're not someone, you know, people shouldn't be deceived by what they see. When it comes to mean business, you mean business. Am I reading you wrongly?
That is
So how do you, and I mean, I think you've alluded to most of it, that the art of communication, because I mean, most times as finance, you know, there's no gray area between 1 and 2. If you're going to communicate 1, it has to be 1. If it's 2, it's 2. The art of communication, especially when you're communicating hard stuff, important things that must be communicated. Sometimes to people, maybe for example, a shareholder has been looking forward to this dividend because he needs to finish his apartment, and then halfway the year you're actually even asking them, you know what, guys, I think we need more money. What are some of the tips that you picked along the way in terms of communicating difficult news, if I could say?
Okay, now when it comes to the shareholders, I'll just give an example where I am. I was inducted and told that we have set our percentage, which you shouldn't go below. So the issue of dividend, they have set, they said, you don't go below this percentage after profit after tax. So it is a set stand. But what will you do for shareholders? You can delay. You will not tell them that I'm not giving a dividend, but you can delay. You can tell them, actually, at the moment, with all these investments, with all these things that we are doing, we will pay late. And communication is key. And explaining the detail and packaging the information to show them, yes, the delay is now, but tomorrow it's going to be better. Not if you give them a gray area, actually the situation is, we are not so sure when sometimes they will even fire you. They say, this person, then don't pay your salary, pay us. So as a strategic leader, yes, we have the technical skills, but communication is important. Collaboration is important. And you have to give them the information that they need to hear. Don't just tell them what happened yesterday, but you show them that this is where we are going. And if you can hold on, you'll get there. So those are the key things. You don't lie, but you are able to communicate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, there's something you mentioned earlier around where most finance people, they focus a lot in the past and the present. And I remembered when you're reading most statements, especially those that are published in the papers, the part about outlook is only given like one paragraph, like towards in the corner. And how important is it to keep your your eyes a lot on the outlook? And what are some of the tools? Because unless you're God, whom we can't quite reach very often, it's also hard to look into the future and be able to accurately predict it. What are some of the tools, or how are you able to accurately, or with some good amount of amount of accuracy, look into the future and guide the organization? What are some of the tools that can help a CFO?
Okay, currently we have technology, and we have AI, and currently, I advise all CFO to adopt the AI. Sometimes you wait for the reports from your accountants and the team, and they are delayed. But if you get the trend, and you give it to AI, and you tell AI, project. These are the things that I'm thinking about. You give some insights. This is where we want to go. Can you project for me? AI will project for you, and it will give you a lot of information that you may have taken long to get. And when you read through that, you'll be able to get a lot of insights. And when you are preparing your presentation, you'll be able to advise appropriately, because you have already, it's faster. It helps you to, it's not that you are copying and pasting, but it's helping you to get the decision faster. And in that aspect, when you look at the data, now a CFO who cannot analyze data. Data analytics is key. Yes, we know finance. Yes, we know how to balance the balance sheet, the income statement, but you should be able to analyze the data and then project the future. So currently, as a strategic leader, if you cannot project the future, then other people will project for you. And currently in our space, the finance space, you notice that many people are coming into our spaces. There was a comment that in the past, CFOs have been becoming CEOs, but now even the chief technology officers are becoming CEOs. The different people are becoming CEOs. But the difference with the finance person, because of that strength in the finance aspects, whereby you can really see the risks, you can really see the trend, and then you project. So in our position, data analytics is key, to be able to strategize and project the future and tell them the impact even of some decisions. You may be going to invest in a project whereby when you analyze the project, it's a very viable project. It is maybe the risk ratings, because now we also have to look at risks. What is the risk? The risk ratings, it may be very viable, but the risk ratings are high. Or it may be low, but at the end of the day, when you look at that project and its impact, what is it going to cause? So there are a number of things that you have to collaborate and then be able to communicate, looking at the market space. And
maybe looking at I mean, I hear you speaking about analytics, AI, you're talking about technology. Looking at the quality of the new workforce that is coming, especially those who are just starting in or fresh from school, do you get the feeling that these guys are being given the right kind of skills that are needed right now that you guys need and are using? Or do you think there's somewhere where there needs to be some bit of switching to make them? Because I mean, with technology, like they say in Uganda, at total speed. Do you feel, and this is more like to the people who run the finance schools and other rated, education areas, do you feel we are equipping our future finance profession, our future CFOs with the right things that they need? Or when these guys come to you, you have to retrain afresh, like they never went to school? Okay,
I think with ACCA they're on track. ACCA they're on track. Yeah. When you see how they are, they are think ahead. When you see how they research, they have invested in a lot of research, and the way they are delivering their subjects or modules or papers, you find that they are on course and they are on track. They are trying to align themselves with what the business community desires. Obviously, when I have worked with all kinds of employees, those that have ACCA and those that have other courses, you find that with the other courses, they need to do a lot with the technology And they need to do a lot with teaching these people to think, because we have that two categories. And when you see someone who has done ACCA and has done even the international MBA courses, you find that the way they are doing their things and the way they deliver is a little bit different. So we need to copy as a country that I think either ACCA has to partner with educational institutions, and they see how they can collaborate, and they are able to deliver that finance professional who can lead in the future.
Okay. There's something interesting you mentioned about around the time you are doing, I think you are doing your course, and then there was family, and then work, and so many things. And from the conversations you have also with other finance people, they give an impression it's quite a demanding job. How do you balance? Well, how do you survive? How do you keep sane in all this and still remain to look, smile at people and still be yourself?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's quite a challenge, but balancing is very important, such that you keep your mental health stable. So I am a mother, I am a boss, I am a wife, and I also have to do work. I'm an employee. So balancing is key. There is a time when I had books, as I said, that I had, I remember the papers that I used to do when I was on maternity leave. You have just given birth, you have that December papers. And now you have, in that aspect, if you are still in the childbearing age, you need a lot of support network to go through those phases. And that support network nowadays is so scarce, but you need that family person who will stand in for you. Maybe you are going to have to do the paper, and you are leaving the baby somewhere. And then when you aspire to climb through the ladders, you need a supportive husband who will not be questioning you. Today, why are you late? You didn't cook. You need a very supporting husband. And what I can tell the people that are watching us, if you are a husband out there and you are marrying a professional, you should know that you have to support them. They may not be the women that cook every day. They may not be the ones that do all the house chores, because they have to balance. So what has been my life, I have a very supportive husband who sometimes even questions, are you going to do this course? When are you starting? Have you read anything new? So he really puts you on that level. And then you have to give time. You have to get some time for your family, for the children, because they will also demand some time from you. I'm at a stage where I have teenagers. They even question everything. So you have that thing. Then you have your work. You have the team that you lead. You cannot afford to come late because I had a late night and I did what? You have to make sure that even when you have had a late night at your work, at your home, you are able to be at the workplace at the right time, and you are able to read through, get time and read through what you have to read through the papers, and also be able to report back and do your work. Then the other aspect of women. Now I will go to our gender as a wife. As a wife, you know that men, there are things that we go through that men don't go through. Now you cannot be a woman aspiring to be the head of an institution or a CFO, but you are giving birth every year. It is a very sensitive issue, but you have to plan. I had a boss in the judiciary who used to tell me, pregnancy and delivery is not an emergency. You plan for it and it takes 9 months. So you have to plan. So I encourage, yes, you can be a wife and you plan. You cannot afford to give birth every year. If you give birth every year, then the opportunities will slip through. Your boss will say, that one, every time he comes back, he's going on maternity leave. So that is also key, to be strategic and say that, okay, this is how I will go about it. But at the end of it all, and when, as women, we also have emotions. We lead with emotions. We pick out on so many things. We are very sensitive. Now, as a leader, you have to manage your emotions. Now, when you're managing your emotions, yes, it's okay to feel bad, but you cannot keep it. You cannot go back to that all the time. I have teenagers at home. You cannot tell a teenager 3 times the same thing. He says, but mommy, you spoke it at first. So as you manage your home, where there are things that you let go, there are things, even in the office, you have to balance that, and then you make sure that you have these people who also have emotions, but you don't have to be very relaxed. You have to be tough at some times. They call it tough love at home. But you also have to be tough and very clear. You are very clear. You give clear instructions. And even when you are hurting, if you read, there's a book, I have forgotten its name, but it's a certain lady who was working in Facebook. And she tells us to find our seats on the table. Now, that book, he says that sometimes you have even to fake the smile. Even when you feel you don't have the smile, you have to fake it. You don't have to come and show everybody how gloomy you are, how the day was not so good. No, you have to fake the smile. So what I can say is that as a lady in leadership and in finance, yes, you have the technical skills, you have to manage your emotions, you have to take care of others, and you have to know that this organization is bigger than you. So that will help you to balance. But finally, you need to have a supportive network and family. And if you are married, your husband has to support you. If he doesn't support you, it will be very difficult for you. Because there are times when I had to travel up country for a week. There are times when I have to stay late with my boss. We stay late and we have to finish some papers. So all that, and there are times when you have to come earlier. There are times when you have to say, you drop the kids, for me I'll pick them. So all those things are important, and yet you have to keep learning. Thank you.
Interesting. You talked about something about being a supportive husband, but sometimes, and I'm speaking my experience as a husband, sometimes this relationship is reciprocal. Like, are you being a supportive wife before you get a supportive husband? And sometimes, by the way, also what's interesting is that there's when you think you're being a supportive husband, or rather a supportive spouse, but probably because you've not had conversations around what makes a support, what is her definition or his definition of a supporting spouse. Sometimes you think you are supporting when you're actually being a bit diversionary. Yeah, but that aside, and just rushing to the bit of being a finance leader, a woman finance leader today, and in general, being a woman leader, is it any better than it was like 10 years ago? Is it getting better? Are there gaps of improvement, or is it getting worse? Are there some areas which stand out where you think women need to be supported more? And I know there are some areas, actually, there are some sectors where people are beginning to have conversations. I think we're having too many women to the detriment of the boy child. In your view, how do you look at this conversation? How easy is it? And are there some areas which stand out where you think women need to be supported in terms of rising to the level of leadership?
Okay, it has to be balanced. I started with where you're saying that now the boy child is at risk. True. The boy child is at risk, and some of them are losing confidence where we are. But as a woman leader, yes, the support, we have gotten this support for so many years. I'm thinking that thank you for giving us those opportunities whereby you are adding, but women should also know that they can also stand out by themselves. Where they need support is their weak aspects, because they are the ones that take care of the children. There are those things that men don't go through. There I understand they need to be supported. But ultimately, in the past and now, what I see that the president has realized that the women are equally good. One of the things I see with women, there are things that men are doing in this time and age which women will not do. I don't mean that there are not women that have run away with billions of money, but you find that the risk, if you hire a woman and you hire a man, the risk is higher for a man. But there are also there are also aspects whereby men are bold and more assertive. Now the issue is helping the women to become more assertive, without shouting, without acting to be, there you act to be, the word has gone, but there is a way they act like for them they are disadvantaged. No, without acting the disadvantage, they don't play the disadvantage card, but they should be guided to stand out and do what is right. And if they have information, they should be able to speak up. I love that book because it tells us, find your seat. If there is no seat where we are breaking the glass ceiling, they tell us, stand out. Yes, I know you got your maternity leave of 60 days, but there is a project whereby you are key stakeholder, which you can do. So yes, you can work from home. You can get an hour at home and you complete that project. So the issue is to balance. They need to be taught how to balance, because for sure, I believe currently we are still few in the leadership space, but we have been supported. All we need to be is, we need now to empower ourselves. Us as women, we need to be empowered and to know that yes, we can stand out and we can excel and we can still support. The last thing that I can say in that aspect, we shouldn't be alone. The balance is still needed. For us, we lead with our emotions, we balance, but at that table in the boardroom, you also need the men to spice it up. If you find that we are only women, it may not be good, then the balance will not be there. Although I know nowadays that we always balance when we are talking about women, but the balance should be a balance of even the boy child included.
Okay. In reality, I know that the boardroom, behind those smiles in the profile pictures we see in the corporate profile, and there's a lot of jungle, like man eat man things of the boardroom politics and everything, but generally speaking, even like the career progress, the whole the typical workplace is like a jungle sorts. And I'm sure for you not to lose yourself or get lost, you must lift up your game. And along the way, are there any tips that you have learned that you think have helped you to not lose yourself and keep afloat and rise to where you are?
Okay, some of the things that have helped me along my journey. First of all, the continuous learning is important. Whenever there is a hurdle, whenever you have to keep ahead, have the knowledge. If you have the information, if they talk to you and every time you are talking, you have knowledge, you're knowledgeable, they will come back and talk to you and they will identify you and they will assign you. And they assign you a task. I have something that I do differently. One, in my years of work, someone said, you should always think for your boss. Before they ask for a report, draft it and send it. Don't wait to be told, I need this and the other. Look at the environment and you draft it. So that helps you, that if your boss, if your office is that you are the one that is helpful, you stand out, that has helped me. You have to go ahead. So for me, if I know that we are in a season of planning, etc., and I have already analyzed, I know I have seen these trends, before my boss will tell me, now we need this, draft for me a paper like this, I have already sent her. My boss is a lady. I have already sent her and told her that this is what the trend that we have now. These are the prospects. What should we focus on? I think there is this. So that helps you. You should be ahead. You shouldn't sit back and wait. And that is where we are. We have a lot of people who just sit in the office. They are comfortable with their salary and they are waiting to be told. That one doesn't work if you want to get to the top. Then you have to be knowledgeable. That's where I started from. And then when you are at the table, you have to say something. You cannot just wait to be picked upon and you just, you have to contribute. Yeah, so that helps you to stand out and you have to keep high levels of integrity. You should be ethical at all standards. So that helps you that they know when they refer to Martha, they know she's that one. you don't do those things behind her back. So you stand out and you are equal to your name.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I hear you well, you say that grab your seat at the table, but once you get to the table, don't relax and feel like I have arrived. You need to make sure you stay there and perhaps even move to a bigger table. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. As we wind up, two things. One is I just want to pick out what worries you. What worries you as a person, as a professional, as a business leader, even as a parent of of teenagers, especially in the career space, looking ahead where we're going. And then maybe the last question would be, what would be your parting shots if you feel there's anything else we could have left out that you really wanted to put across that anybody who's consuming this interview must not miss? Okay,
what worries me, I'll just speak that, are the ever-changing regulations. They are becoming difficult to predict, and that worries me. And when you look at the generation that we have, which is young, they are teenagers, and because of the internet, they are in the world. So we are preparing young people who are not for Uganda, but they are for the world, and they are ahead of us. So as a parent, as a leader of teens, the companies should be ready to have that migration of whereby our workforce will be giving us about a year and they go, because they are looking at all these opportunities and they are looking out to work according to their terms. I'll give an example that I worked in a hospital, and that nurses didn't want to work on those shifts. Some nurses want to give 2 hours, and that is coming up. And when I look at my teenagers, I see how they are doing their things and how they use the internet. I just see that now where we are as a business, we have to be very fast. We have to adapt very fast. If we don't adapt very fast, we are going to be left behind. It's going to be very expensive to hire labor. It's going, because of the changing technologies, that means the business, we have to think of, if we don't have any more teachers that we can have in the school, are we ready to design those robots that are going to help us support the teaching? So that is where I see, that is the worry that I see, that if we are not ahead of the game, we may be left out. And that keeps me with my antennas up. I do a lot of reading. I'm online. I'm on my LinkedIn. I follow the CFO chats. I also follow the CFO podcasts. I also follow you. I watch what you have posted, those interviews, when you interview the different CEOs and the what. So what I do differently to stay up there is that you should also be online to see what is happening, what are the trends, what are the global trends, what is happening in our country, what are the changing. The recent thing that happened yesterday is that bill where it's saying all teachers from nursery, and you are looking now for me, I'm education. Teachers from nursery, is there an institution that is going to teach them, etc.? You are looking at all that, but all those aspects are going to impact the business. And when you look at the taxman is also bringing a lot of things, all those things are impacting the business. So what worries me is that if the CEOs, if the CFOs are not engaging at that level, engaging these regulators, we will be taken by surprise with what will happen. So those are some of the worries. But all in all, the Baganda say echijo manyi, chinyaga bitono, so let us be ahead of the game. And if we are ahead of the game, we will get there and we will succeed. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Martha. It was a very insightful interview, and I'm looking forward to hosting you again in the very near future. And thank you, ACCA Uganda. Thank you, Deloitte Uganda, for partnering with us to bring you these insightful conversations in our CFO Playbook. And please do follow us on our different social media channels. They look for the CFO Playbook and CEO East Africa Magazine. And thank you for tuning in. Can't wait to see you again.
CFO Playbook by CEO East Africa Magazine in association with FCCA Uganda and Deloitte.